Stop scrolling. Just listen. You were meant to hear this today. Welcome to my channel.
Listen carefully. What I'm about to share is not for everyone. This message is urgent and it is sacred. Only God's chosen ones are meant to hear this. If you are not walking the divine path, if your heart is not aligned with God, this message will not stay with you. But if you are a true follower, if you have felt that quiet pull toward God your entire life, then you are exactly where you are meant to be. This message has reached you at the perfect time, not early, not late, but right on God's schedule. And yes, it will change your life if you allow it. Chosen one, your DNA carries a story older than you realize. Your blood remembers God. Your spirit recognizes truth because prophets walked before you. This is not imagination. This is inheritance. And today, you are being called to claim it. I want you to stay with me till the very end, because what unfolds next will bring clarity to things you have felt but never understood. It will calm your mind and steady your spirit. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon and share this message with other chosen ones who need it. And comment 777 below to declare that you are aligned with the divine calling placed on your life. Divine identity is not random. God never moves without bloodlines. Let me speak to you calmly now, like a teacher who has watched generations rise and fall. Nothing about God is accidental. Nothing about you is random. God does not wake up one day and decide to experiment with souls. He is a God of order, of lineage, of intention. When he moves on the earth, he moves through people. And when he chooses people, he often chooses families, bloodlines, generations. From the beginning, God worked this way. He called Abraham, and through Abraham came a lineage. He chose David, and through David came kings. He spoke through prophets, and many of them came from families already set apart. This was not favoritism. This was preparation. God places assignments into bloodlines the same way he places seeds into soil that can carry them. Now listen carefully. This does not mean everyone in a bloodline fulfills the calling. Some run from it, some silence it, some trade it for comfort. But the seed remains, and when the time is right, God awakens it in the one who can carry the weight. That is why you feel different. You didn't choose this awareness. It followed you. Even when you tried to live normally, even when you tried to blend in, something inside you resisted a shallow life. You may not have had religious parents. You may not have grown up in church. Yet your spirit knew when something was wrong. You could feel lies in the air. You sensed heaviness in rooms. You felt drawn to God even when you didn't fully understand him. That is not coincidence. That is memory. Spiritual DNA is real. Just like physical DNA carries traits, spiritual DNA carries awareness. It carries sensitivity to truth. It carries a response to God's presence. That's why some people can hear scripture their whole lives and feel nothing, while one sentence can pierce your heart and stay with you for years. You see, religion can be learned, but calling is remembered. God does not reveal himself deeply to everyone, not because he doesn't love them, but because not everyone is built to carry revelation. Revelation demands responsibility. It demands endurance. It demands obedience even when it costs you something. That is why chosen ones often feel burdened before they feel blessed. You have always felt like you were here for something more, haven't you? Even during your lowest moments, there was a quiet voice saying, "This is not the end." Even when you failed, something kept pulling you back toward light. That is the voice of lineage. That is the echo of those who walked with God before you. Let me correct something that has confused many chosen ones. Being chosen does not mean being superior. It means being accountable. It means you feel conviction faster. You cannot enjoy darkness the way others do. You cannot lie to yourself for long. You cannot numb your conscience without feeling empty afterward. That is not weakness, that is design. God marks certain bloodlines with sensitivity because sensitivity is required to hear him. Prophets were not chosen because they were loud, they were chosen because they listened. And listening requires a certain inner structure that not everyone has. That is why from childhood you may have felt older than your age. Why you questioned things others accepted blindly. Why injustice bothered you deeply. Why you felt responsible for things you didn't cause. These are not personality quirks. These are indicators. Now let me say this gently, because this is where many struggle. Just because your DNA carries prophetic lineage does not mean your life will be easy. In fact, it often means the opposite, because God trains his vessels. He refines them. He strips them of illusions early so they don't collapse later. That explains why you were uncomfortable in places that entertained others, why shallow conversations drained you, why your soul craved depth even when your environment offered noise. You were not difficult. You were misaligned. God never sends a prophet without preparation, and preparation often looks like confusion before clarity. Some of you spent years asking, why me? Why do I feel this way? Why do I see things others don't? Why does my heart feel heavy for the world? Why do I feel called but unqualified? Let me answer you plainly. Because God was shaping you quietly. While others were building identities based on approval, God was dismantling yours so he could rebuild it on truth. While others were chasing comfort, God was teaching you endurance. Bloodlines carry assignments, but individuals must accept them. And acceptance doesn't start with speaking loudly about it. It starts with understanding it, with honoring it, with no longer resisting what you are. You don't need to convince anyone that you are chosen. God never asked you to. Your life will speak when the time comes. For now, your task is awareness, grounded awareness, calm acceptance. This is not about ego, this is about alignment. Once you understand that your identity was designed long before your birth, something relaxes inside you. You stop forcing, you stop comparing, you stop trying to prove yourself. You begin to walk with a quiet authority, not because you know everything, but because you trust the one who does. And that trust, chosen one, that deep inner knowing, did not start with you. It runs in your blood. The language of your soul signs your DNA, remembers God. Now I want you to relax your shoulders and breathe for a moment. What I'm about to say is not to impress you. It is to explain you to yourself. Many chosen ones struggle not because they lack faith, but because they lack language. They feel things deeply, but don't know how to name them. And when you can't name something, you start doubting it. Let me give you the language your soul has been waiting for. There are signs that your DNA remembers God. These signs are quiet, not dramatic. They don't announce themselves loudly. They show up in how you feel, how you respond, how your inner world works. And you've had them for as long as you can remember. You've always had an inner compass. Even when you tried to ignore it, it spoke. You felt discomfort when something was wrong, even if everyone else said it was fine. You felt peace when something was right, even if logic couldn't explain it. That is not anxiety. That is discernment. Anxiety is fear of the unknown. Discernment is recognition without explanation. Many of you sensed danger before it appeared. You felt shifts in people before words were spoken. You knew when someone's intentions were not clean, even when they smiled at you. And often, you paid a price for trusting that inner knowing. You were called sensitive, overthinking, too serious, too deep. But listen to me carefully. Sensitivity is not weakness when God is the source. It is a spiritual antenna. Your soul picks up frequencies others can't hear. That's why crowded places exhaust you. That's why loud energy drains you. That's why silence restores you. You are not antisocial. You are spiritually receptive. And receptivity requires rest. Another sign is your complicated relationship with joy. You can feel happiness, but shallow joy doesn't last for you. Entertainment distracts others, but it leaves you empty. You want meaning, not just pleasure. Purpose, not just comfort. That longing has followed you since youth, and no amount of achievement has fully satisfied it. That longing is memory. Your DNA remembers that life is meant to serve something higher, that existence is more than survival. And when you drift too far from that truth, your spirit reacts. You feel restless, disconnected, off-center. That's not depression by default. That's misalignment. Chosen ones often confuse spiritual misalignment with personal failure. They think something is wrong with them, when in truth, something is wrong with the direction they're facing. Let me say something that may surprise you. Chosen ones are not always confident early in life. Many of you doubted yourselves deeply. You questioned your worth. You wondered why you felt different, why life seemed heavier for you. That doubt was not because you were weak. It was because your soul was awake in a world that wasn't. Awareness without context feels like burden. That's why your mind often felt older than your body. Why childish things bored you early. Why conversations lacking depth irritated you. Why injustice felt personal, even when it didn't touch you directly. Your heart reacted to things before your mind could explain them. That is prophetic sensitivity, even if you never use that word. Another sign is how correction affects you. When you do wrong, it doesn't slide off you. Conviction hits you quickly. You can't enjoy what violates your conscience for long, even when no one sees, something inside you knows. And that inner knowing doesn't punish you, it redirects you. It pulls you back. That is God's imprint. People without calling can live disconnected from conscience and sleep peacefully. Chosen ones cannot. Their spirit won't let them. That's why some of you tried to silence your inner voice. You numbed it with distractions, relationships, habits, work. But it always came back. Because you can't erase what's written into you. You also feel things for others deeply, sometimes too deeply. You absorb emotions without meaning to. You feel heavy after certain conversations and lighter after others. You carry concern for people who don't even notice. This has made you feel foolish at times, overgiving, overcaring. But prophets feel the weight before they carry the message. You were never meant to save everyone, but you were designed to sense. And sensing without boundaries is exhausting. That's why God teaches chosen ones restraint over time. Not to harden them, but to protect them. Let me address something many of you struggle with silently. You often feel tired without physical reason. Your sleep doesn't always refresh you. Your mind feels busy even when your life is quiet. That's because your spirit is processing more than you realize. You're not lazy. You're carrying awareness. Spiritual awareness burns energy. That's also why prayer, even silent prayer, calms you in ways nothing else does. Even when you don't have words, even when you feel distant. Something settles when you turn inward toward God. That response is ancient. Learned behavior feels forced. Remembered behavior feels natural. Your DNA remembers how to return to God. And here is one more sign, and this one is important. You have always felt that your life would matter beyond yourself. Not fame, not applause, but impact. You sensed that your words would carry weight one day, that your presence would affect others, that your life would mean something beyond survival. Even when you felt unqualified, that sense never fully left. That is not ego. Ego wants recognition. Calling wants alignment. Your soul knows it came from somewhere specific, for something specific. And until you honor that, nothing fully fits. Not relationships, not careers, not identities borrowed from the world. You are not broken. You are remembering. And remembrance is the beginning of peace. Prophetic bloodlines. Why you were born into this time. Now let me bring your mind to rest about one question that has quietly followed you for years. Why now? Why was I born into this time? Why not earlier? Why not later? Why does the world feel so loud, so confused, so spiritually dry, while my inner world feels alert and restless? There is a reason for timing. God does not release prophetic bloodlines into seasons of peace. He releases them into seasons of confusion, not because he enjoys chaos, but because light is most visible in darkness. When truth becomes rare, those who carry it are activated. You were not born late. You were not born too early. You were born exactly when your assignment could function. Look around you. Noise everywhere, but little wisdom. Information everywhere, but little truth. Religion everywhere, but little transformation. This is not accidental. This is the environment that awakens prophetic DNA. Because prophets are not formed in comfort. They are formed in contrast. In times when truth is popular, prophets rest. In times when truth is resisted, prophets rise. That is why your spirit never felt fully at ease in this world. You could function in it, but you never belonged to it completely. You adapted, but you didn't blend. You learned the systems, but something in you questioned them. That tension you feel is not rebellion, it is placement. God places prophetic bloodlines where discernment is needed most. Many of you wondered why your awakening did not happen early, why it came after confusion, after loss, after disappointment, after breaking points. Let me tell you something important. God does not awaken prophetic authority until humility is formed. And humility is rarely learned through ease. If God revealed everything to you early, you might have trusted yourself more than him. If he gave you clarity without breaking your reliance on control, you might have mistaken calling for ego. So, he waited. He allowed you to struggle, to question, to fail safely. Delay was protection. Your awakening did not come late. It came complete. You see, prophetic bloodlines are not activated by information. They are activated by alignment. When your heart becomes teachable, when your pride softens, when your need to be right gives way to your desire to be true, that is when remembrance begins. And this generation demands that kind of vessel. You were born into a time where surface-level spirituality is celebrated, but depth is avoided, where quick inspiration replaces long obedience, where people want blessings without transformation, and your spirit resisted that. You wanted something real, something rooted, something that didn't fade after emotions settled. That resistance was not stubbornness, it was recognition. Prophetic bloodlines carry a discomfort with compromise, even when compromise is popular, even when it looks harmless, even when it brings temporary peace. Your spirit knew that truth diluted becomes poison. That is why you couldn't settle easily, why certain paths closed, why certain relationships never felt aligned long-term, why certain successes felt empty. God was not punishing you. He was positioning you. Let me say this clearly. Not everyone born in this time is meant to respond spiritually. Many are meant to consume, to distract, to maintain systems, but some are meant to see, to warn, to restore perspective, to stand steady while others panic. That is the role prophetic bloodlines play. And notice something else. God did not place you where you would be instantly believed. He placed you where truth would be tested. Because untested truth creates fragile messengers. Tested truth creates grounded ones. You learned restraint before expression, silence before speech, observation before declaration. That was training. Prophets are not trained in crowds. They are trained in isolation. Because isolation teaches you to hear God without applause. That's why many of you felt alone even when surrounded by people. That loneliness was not rejection. It was refinement. God removes external validation so internal authority can form. And here is something important for your peace. You are not responsible for fixing this generation. You are responsible for being aligned within it. Prophetic bloodlines don't save the world. They point to God while walking faithfully themselves. Your assignment is not pressure, it is presence. You were born into this time because your nervous system, your soul, your spirit can handle it. Others would collapse under the weight you carry quietly. You learn to remain calm in instability, to think clearly in emotional environments, to discern without panic. Those traits were not accidental. They were developed. And yes, sometimes you wished you were simpler, less aware, less sensitive, less affected. But if that were the case, you would lose what makes you effective. God does not awaken prophetic bloodlines to impress the world. He awakens them to stabilize it. You are here to anchor truth in confusion, to bring clarity without aggression, to embody faith without forcing it, to walk steady while others swing between extremes. That is why your spirit feels alert right now. That is why this message resonates, because something in you recognizes the season. This is not your time to hide, but it is also not your time to rush. Prophetic authority matures like fruit, quietly, gradually, naturally. You were born into this time because you are ready for it, even if you don't feel ready yet. God wouldn't have placed you here otherwise. The pain you didn't understand was preparation. Now let me speak to the part of you that stayed silent for a long time, the part that endured without explanation, the part that learned to stay strong because it had no other choice. This section is not to reopen wounds. It is to finally name them so they no longer control you. Much of the pain you experienced was never random, and it was never wasted. Chosen ones often go through seasons that feel unnecessarily heavy. Rejection that feels personal, betrayal that cuts deeper than it should, loneliness that follows even in rooms full of people. And for years, you may have asked God quietly, "What did I do wrong? Why does it feel like I am always the one learning the hard way?" Let me answer you honestly. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. God does not prepare prophetic vessels the way the world prepares leaders. The world gives applause first and correction later. God does the opposite. He removes applause early so humility can take root. He allows misunderstanding so dependence on validation can die. He permits loss so discernment can sharpen. You didn't lose people because you weren't enough. You lost them because you were becoming someone they could not walk with. Some of you were rejected by family. Not openly, but subtly. You felt unseen, unheard, misunderstood. You learned early not to speak too much about what you felt, because it wasn't received. That silence shaped you. It forced you inward. It taught you to listen. That listening became discernment. Others of you were betrayed by people you trusted deeply. You gave loyalty, honesty, protection, and were met with deception. That betrayal didn't just hurt emotionally, it shook your understanding of people. It made you guarded. It made you cautious. And that caution was not meant to harden you. It was meant to teach you boundaries. God does not allow prophetic vessels to remain naive. Naivety is dangerous for those who see deeply. So he allows disappointment early, so wisdom can grow without bitterness. Let me say something that may bring relief. You were not too much. You were too real for environments built on masks. Your honesty exposed what others wanted to hide. Your depth confronted shallow intentions. And instead of adjusting themselves, people distanced themselves from you. That distance felt like abandonment, but it was protection in disguise. Chosen ones often feel lonely, not because they lack connection, but because they cannot maintain false connection. Your soul refuses it. Even when loneliness hurts, something inside you would rather be alone than be untrue. That integrity came at a cost, but it preserved your clarity. Many of you also experienced emotional exhaustion early in life. You carried responsibilities that were not yours. You became the listener, the fixer, the peacemaker. People leaned on you without noticing the weight it placed on you. You learned to be strong before you learned to rest. That strength was not forced on you to break you, it was built into you to sustain you. But here is where many chosen ones misunderstand God. They think pain is proof of distance from him. In truth, pain was often evidence of proximity, because God disciplines those he trusts with influence. Every season of loss stripped something from you. Sometimes comfort, sometimes illusions, sometimes dependency on people, sometimes ego, and each stripping felt like punishment at the time. But stripping is how vessels are cleaned. If God had allowed you to keep everything, you would have relied on the wrong things. So he removed them, slowly, sometimes painfully, always intentionally. You may have noticed that after each painful season, something inside you matured. You saw clearer. You reacted calmer. You tolerated less nonsense. You understood people faster. Pain sharpened your perception, and perception is a prophetic tool. Let me address something you rarely admit. You sometimes wished you were more like others, less thoughtful, less affected, less intense. Life seemed easier for them. They laughed more freely. They moved on faster. They didn't carry things as deeply. But if you were like them, you would lose what makes you effective. God did not design you for surface living. He designed you for depth, and depth requires pressure. Without pressure, there is no formation. Some of you went through long seasons where nothing made sense. You prayed, but answers were quiet. You obeyed, but clarity delayed. You stayed faithful, but progress felt slow. That was not stagnation, that was root building. God grows roots in silence. He builds stability underground before allowing visibility above ground. What looks like delay is often depth forming, and here is something important. Pain taught you empathy, not sympathy. Empathy. You can feel with people without being consumed by them. You understand suffering without romanticizing it. You listen without rushing to fix. That capacity makes you safe for others. But God also taught you discernment, so you wouldn't bleed for everyone. You learned slowly that not everyone deserves access to your inner world, that not everyone who asks deserves your energy. That discernment is not cruelty, it is stewardship. Your pain taught you when to open and when to close, and now something has shifted. You no longer relate to your pain the same way. You don't glorify it, you don't deny it, you understand it. It has become information, not identity. That is healing. You are no longer trying to prove your worth through endurance. You are learning to honor your calling through alignment. You are learning that rest is not laziness, that boundaries are not rejection, that saying no is sometimes obedience. That wisdom did not come from books. It came from lived experience. Let me speak peace into your mind now. Nothing you went through disqualified you. It refined you. Nothing broke you beyond repair. It shaped you into someone who can carry truth without arrogance and compassion without collapse. God did not waste your tears. He counted them. He used them to soften you without weakening you. You are not behind. You are not damaged. You are not late. You are being prepared. And now the weight you once carried painfully, you will carry with clarity. Claiming what was always yours. Stepping into prophetic authority. Now listen to me carefully, and let your mind stay calm while I say this. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when preparation must turn into acceptance. Not performance, not announcement. Acceptance. This is the moment when you stop asking for permission to be who God already shaped you to be. Prophetic authority is not loud. It does not rush. It does not argue. It settles. Many of you have delayed stepping into alignment because you misunderstood authority. You thought authority meant speaking boldly, correcting others, proving truth, or being seen as spiritual. That is not prophetic authority. That is insecurity wearing spiritual language. True authority is internal before it is ever external. When God gives authority, it first shows up as peace, a quiet confidence, a steadiness that doesn't shake when questioned. You stop needing agreement to feel secure. You stop reacting emotionally to disbelief. You stop forcing outcomes. Authority does not chase validation. Authority waits for alignment. Some of you feared stepping into your calling because you didn't feel ready. Let me free you from that thought. Readiness is not confidence. Readiness is obedience without panic. You don't feel ready because your spirit understands responsibility. That hesitation is not doubt. It is reverence. Prophetic authority does not come from knowing everything. It comes from trusting God more than your own understanding. That's why claiming what was always yours does not begin with speaking differently. It begins with thinking differently. You stop minimizing yourself. You stop apologizing for depth. You stop shrinking to fit spaces that were never designed to hold you. You don't become arrogant. You become grounded. There is a difference. Arrogance demands attention. Authority attracts respect without asking. Arrogance reacts when challenged. Authority remains calm. Arrogance needs to be right. Authority needs to be true. God never told prophets to defend themselves. He told them to speak and remain faithful. Some of you are still waiting for a dramatic moment, a sign, a voice, a confirmation from others. But authority often arrives quietly. It comes as a shift in how you carry yourself, how you speak less but mean more, how your words begin to land differently. People start listening without knowing why. That's not manipulation, that's alignment. Let me tell you something important. Claiming prophetic authority does not mean you suddenly confront everyone around you. In fact, restraint is one of the clearest signs of authority. You don't speak every truth you see. You speak the truth God assigns. Not everything revealed to you is meant to be announced. Some things are meant to be prayed over. Some things are meant to be waited on. Discernment determines timing. Prophetic authority knows when to be silent. Many chosen ones struggle here. They see clearly, but they speak too quickly. And when truth is released without timing, it creates resistance instead of transformation. That's why God taught you patience through pain, so your words would heal, not wound. Claiming authority also means accepting solitude without resentment. There will be moments when you cannot explain yourself, when your path makes no sense to others, when obedience isolates you. That is not rejection. That is refinement continuing at a higher level. Authority also changes how you relate to fear. Fear does not disappear. It loses control. You feel it, but it no longer directs you. You move forward calmly, not recklessly, thoughtfully, not anxiously. You stop asking, "What if it fails?" and start asking, "What if I remain faithful?" That shift is powerful. Let me address another misunderstanding. Prophetic authority does not make you superior to others. It makes you responsible for yourself. You stop blaming others for your stagnation. You stop expecting people to understand you. You stop resenting those who don't walk your path. You release them. Authority brings emotional maturity. You no longer need everyone to agree with you. You no longer explain yourself endlessly. You let fruit speak, and fruit takes time. Some of you are stepping into a season where your presence alone shifts rooms. You don't preach. You don't correct. You don't perform. Yet people feel calmer around you, safer, clearer. That is authority in its purest form. It comes from alignment between your inner world and God's truth. When your thoughts, values, and actions agree, your spirit becomes stable. And stability is rare in chaotic times. God trusts stable vessels. Claiming what was always yours also means releasing false humility. False humility pretends to be small to avoid responsibility. True humility accepts assignment without ego. It says, "I didn't choose this, but I will steward it." You don't need to announce that you are chosen. God never asked you to. Those who need to recognize it will. Those who don't are not required to. Your task is not to be seen. Your task is to be aligned. As you claim this authority, your lifestyle begins to reflect it. You choose your words carefully. You protect your energy intentionally. You simplify your life. You remove unnecessary noise. You value rest as obedience, because authority cannot function in constant chaos. And here is the most important part. You don't rush God anymore. You trust His timing. You trust His process. You trust His silence as much as His voice. That trust is authority. You are no longer trying to become something. You are learning to walk as who you already are, calmly, clearly, without fear. This is not the season of announcement. This is the season of embodiment, and embodiment changes everything. Why this message found you now? A spiritual activation moment. Now I want you to settle your mind, because this part is important. Not dramatic, not rushed, important. You did not find this message by accident. And I want to be very clear here, not mystical, not exaggerated, but grounded in truth. Moments like this happen when the inner world and divine timing finally meet. You have heard many messages before. You have watched many videos. You have read words that sounded spiritual. But this one stayed with you. Something in you slowed down when you pressed play. Your attention didn't scatter. Your spirit leaned in. That is how activation begins, quietly. God does not shout to activate prophetic bloodlines. He aligns. This message came to you now because you are ready to hear it without misusing it. A few years ago, this might have inflated you, or confused you, or pressured you. But now, it settles you. That difference matters. Readiness is not excitement. Readiness is steadiness. You are no longer searching for identity. You are recognizing it. There is a reason the noise of the world has started to irritate you more lately. A reason distractions don't satisfy you like they used to. A reason certain conversations feel empty. Your spirit has been shedding layers. Old versions of you are losing relevance. And when shedding happens, sensitivity increases. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is transition. Activation does not mean you suddenly do more. It means you resist less. You stop fighting who you are. You stop running from your inner knowing. You stop delaying alignment because it feels unfamiliar. You have noticed a shift in your patience. You tolerate less chaos, less drama, less confusion. Not because you are angry, but because your system rejects disorder now. That is your nervous system aligning with truth. Spiritual activation affects the mind before it affects behavior. That is why this feels calming, not overwhelming. Activation is not urgency. Urgency comes from fear. Activation comes from clarity. Let me say something clearly so you don't misunderstand this moment. This is not a call to isolate yourself from the world. It is a call to engage it differently. Without panic, without proving, without absorbing everything. You are learning to observe without absorbing. That skill is crucial for prophetic bloodlines. Without it, sensitivity becomes exhaustion. With it, sensitivity becomes wisdom. You may have noticed that recently, things have been leaving your life without force. Certain people faded. Certain desires lost power. Certain habits stopped calling your name. You didn't fight them. You outgrew them. That is activation. God does not activate by adding first, He activates by removing. And here is where many chosen ones get anxious. They think something is ending permanently. They feel loss. But what is actually happening is space is being created. Space for clarity. Space for peace. Space for obedience without resistance. You are not losing yourself. You are simplifying. This message reached you now because your spirit can receive it without needing to announce it to anyone. Earlier, you may have wanted recognition. Now, you want alignment. Earlier, you wanted certainty. Now you value truth even when it requires patience. That shift tells me you are ready. Activation also explains why your prayer life may feel quieter but deeper. You may not be asking as much. You may be listening more. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels full. That is not distance from God. That is intimacy. God speaks less when trust is built. Instructions shorten when alignment increases. You don't need constant reassurance when you know how to return inward. This moment is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering something ancient, something that was always present but buried under noise, expectation, survival, and pain. And remembrance does not shock the system, it soothes it. You are not being activated to perform miracles or speak loudly or confront others. You are being activated to live truthfully, calmly, consistently, without fragmentation. That is powerful. Let me address a fear some of you have right now. You may be wondering, what if I fail this calling? What if I misunderstand it? What if I disappoint God? Let me free you from that fear. God does not activate what He has not already sustained. He has been with you through confusion, through mistakes, through doubt. He is not waiting to abandon you now. Activation is not a test. It is alignment, and alignment grows through daily choices, not dramatic moments, through honesty, through rest, through saying no when needed, through choosing truth even when it is inconvenient. You don't need to rush into anything after this message. That is important. Let it settle, let it integrate. Activation unfolds in layers. Forcing it disrupts it. Your job right now is awareness. Notice what no longer fits. Notice what brings peace. Notice where your energy flows easily. God often guides through ease after long resistance. And one more thing. This message found you now because you are strong enough not to weaponize it against yourself or others. Earlier, you may have judged yourself harshly, or compared your path, or demanded perfection. Now, you are gentler, and gentleness is required at this level. This is not the beginning of pressure. It is the beginning of trust. Trust in God. Trust in timing. Trust in the process that has already carried you this far. You don't need to figure everything out today. You only need to remain aligned tomorrow. Activation is not a moment you announce. It is a state you inhabit, and you are already stepping into it. Conclusion. Walk forward without fear. Now let me close this gently, the way a wise teacher would, not with pressure, but with peace. You don't need to rush after this message. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. What God has awakened in you will grow quietly, the way strong things always do. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are aligned. Your life does not need to look dramatic to be meaningful. Your calling does not need to be loud to be powerful. God does His deepest work in stillness, not in noise. And from this place of calm awareness, you will begin to walk differently. Not faster, just steadier. Let others chase attention. Let others argue. Let others compete. You were not designed for that. You were designed to remain grounded while the world shakes, to carry clarity without arrogance, to walk in truth without fear. Remember this, God walks ahead of you. You are not navigating this alone. Every step that confused you before was preparation. Every delay protected you. Every loss refined you. Nothing was wasted. You don't need to fear your future. You don't need to fear your calling. What God placed in you is sustained by Him. Your responsibility is not perfection. It is faithfulness. Daily, quietly, honestly, stay rooted, stay discerning, stay gentle with yourself. And before you go, chosen one, if this message resonated with you, give this video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon and share this message with other chosen ones who need clarity right now. And comment 777 below as a declaration that you accept alignment, peace, and divine guidance in this season of your life. Walk forward calmly. God is with you.